Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Freelance Teacher Podcast, and we're back. And it's a rainy Thursday. I'm back in the building. I'm giving you a little bit of an update as to what's going on both in the school world and a little bit about what's up in New York City in particular. We have things going on that when they talk about which they'll talk about in 2035 or so, and they'll say, how did it get like this? Why is it just not the way I read about in the books or see about in the TV shows? And I'm going to tell you why right now, today. A couple of things going on in the school world. We're this COVID stuff is still going on, and the politicians and the controllers of us keep telling the American population, the New York City population in particular, about cases. Now, I've mentioned it before, but for those of you who are new to the game, a COVID case means that someone put something up your nose and they put it to the lab and it came back with having COVID attributes, COVID virus, COVID positivity. The person could have no symptoms. Most people don't even know that they have it. So these cases, which are not even a fully reliable test, count as a case. And so when the hospitals didn't fill up, and as I mentioned before, we have between 3 and 25 people in New York State dying with COVID a day. That's nothing. That's not even a blip. If you don't have the deaths and you don't have the hospital chaos, you've got to create something else to instill the fear in people that they need to control you. And so cases and the number of cases, and they put up the huge numbers of cases, is in the news. So in the school world, what it means is if the number of cases goes up, a politician will say, like the New York City mayor did today or yesterday, talk about closing all the schools again, locking down the schools again. Already the governor of New York State, who is in a race with the mayor of New York City for most power-hungry, egomaniacal, depraved individual in New York, he's put out there that restaurants need to close at 10 o'clock and you're not allowed to have more than 10 people in your house for Thanksgiving. So there are two main things that we need to talk about. One of them is the obvious one. Well, actually, let me rephrase. I'm going to say that a different way. One of them is the thing that should be obvious to any American or really free-minded individual in the world who's listening to this, and that is, on what authority does a political person, on what authority does really anybody, anywhere, but in particular the United States, have to tell you how many people you can have in your house at any time, for any reason, under any circumstances? I think the number of COVID deaths in the United States is somewhere in the neighborhood of 215, 225,000 people dying with COVID. These are the official numbers. These people are notoriously corrupt, and they're using fear to drive you, but let's just say those are the numbers. Double that die every year of smoking. Somewhere around 20,000 of those people are said to have died due to secondhand smoke. And there's never a lockdown, and there's never a mask mandate or anything like that. But COVID, when you say COVID and cases, Americans, they run for cover. I'm gonna talk about America because I'm in the United States. I see the same thing going on everywhere except a very few places, Sweden and other places. But I'll just talk about the United States. in particular New York and New York City. So they've got everybody shook, and so they're thinking about closing school again. So we as a staff have been going into work now every day for the last week plus and teaching remotely from the school building. And the students are at home on Zoom. And there's now chatter about shutting the schools down again. Now, the fact that I, a broken down 25-year veteran English teacher in the bad neighborhood, easily came across the article in the New Yorker about the children left behind by remote learning, the fact that these students, particularly in at-risk areas, like where I work in Mount Vernon, in the black neighborhood, our young children are having a difficult time. I work with our at-risk high schoolers, older students, the after-school program where these are older students who have had academic and social and economic issues, to say the least. They're the oldest students on the roster. They're in their late teens, some are 20. One of my students gave birth today to a baby girl, and they're remote. So, of course, the participation rates are low, the grades are low, huge numbers of failure rates, titanic, stratospheric, atmospheric attendance, a lack of attendance rates, right, absentee rates. And so, none of that seems to matter, of course, because COVID. And COVID means you need to shut everything down, because if you quarantine and lock down healthy people, that stops a disease, even though that flies in the face of herd immunity. And there are a lot better sources on this COVID stuff than what I'm telling you. I'm just telling you, I'm an English teacher in a neighborhood that needs help with students who are very much in need of in-person instruction, and the elected officials are saying we need to start closing things down again. And so those two things as to possibly locking down schools again, and the second thing was the 10 p.m. curfew in New York City, and restaurants and bars close at 10. I guess magical things happen after 10 o'clock when it comes to viruses. Viruses spread more rapidly after 10 o'clock, I guess. I'm not sure what the magic thing is with 10 o'clock, but you know what? It doesn't really matter in today's America, United States, with the stultifyingly ignorant, lack of civics, loves prison, loves being told what to do, garden variety American. None of this stuff really matters because they seem to be inert. They seem to be uncaring that they are sliding into a country where a small group of people run everything and have everything, and regular people are fighting over the crumbs that are left over. Now, there are ways around this, right? The dystopian hellhole that they're building for you, there are very clear and easy ways to avoid it. And I'm not going to share that with you. You need to find that out on your own. Maybe later I will when I'm in a better mood. There are easy ways to live an abundant life, away from the Andrew Cuomo's of the world and the Bill de Blasio's of the world. Disconnected fools who have no idea what it feels like to feel economic, social, or educational stress. There are ways to avoid these jackasses. I'm not going to tell you. I don't know if you deserve to be told. Simply because, have you written a letter to a congressman? Have you picked up the phone and called your local state representative? Even I've done stuff like that. I know it's reasonably useless, but I do know that when a state official or a government official gets a boatload of emails, the staff will notice that, right? If they get a lot of, they notice it. What they do about it, I'm not sure, but they notice when the when the vast herd of sheeple pushes back? Have you done that? I don't know. I think people just, complain about it to some degree. If they do, I work with people who are eager to be sent back home. And it doesn't really matter to them that these students are suffering, that the young people that your government purports to care about in the education world, the at-risk areas are struggling in a way that you cannot possibly fathom. And then the restaurant industry, right? You're going to shut down restaurants and bars. All those workers, again, are now going to take a huge loss after they finally had some income now after the last after 2-3 months. Now they'll go, nope, got to close again at 10 o'clock because viruses stop doing their thing at 10 o'clock, or they do it worse, so we got to close down, right? So this is the kind of stuff that regular thinking people have to deal with. So I'll close with just the school front. We're still officially due to have K through 3 come in on the 16th of November, 4 through 8 on the 30th of November, and the high school students come in on December 14th. And some students have signed up to stay at home and just do things through Zoom anyway. So I just, this is public school. This is the part that I want you to think about carefully. You can't really go on social media and blast the public schools. I mean, if you're a libertarian or if you're one of these kind of pseudo-conservative types, you complain about the public schools even though you send your kids there, right? How many boomer cons send their children to the universities and then wonder why they come back, the high schools and the universities, why they come back with purple hair screaming about social issues and social justice? Because your dumb boomer con ass sent your children to these liberal universities and high schools where they got indoctrinated by these ignorant teachers who don't know anything, but they feel a lot of stuff. So I don't even know where I was going with that. So anyway, the school stuff is still on in terms of coming back. Many students coming back in December. So I'm not quite sure what is going to happen because the election is still kind of up in the air. So this is obviously it's all political now. Anyone who talks about health or following the science, when I hear any talk about health or quote unquote following the science, when I hear somebody mention that seriously, they lose a lot of points in my book because it's obvious that the people who rule over us aren't thinking that. So why would you? You got to take care of your own health and your family and children's health. I think that Andrew Cuomo is worried about your health with his big ass house up in Mount Kisco with a lake in front of it. Sometimes I wonder about people. Anyway, just got to get that off my chest, so I wanted to let you know what's up. It's not even 5 o'clock yet. It's all dark, rainy, and it really fits the kind of mood I'm in. That's why this message is so crazy. All right, people. I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.